Alright, so we are back, and we have got another video by Rose, which I'm apparently in, and we're about to find out. Now, for those who have missed the others, and maybe they're watching this on speaker at work, that's a bad idea. I am a PG, family-friendly streamer. Rose is not. Now, my sense of humor has a very large spectrum that exists outside of my streams. And I think this stuff is hilarious. It is not within the purview of what I normally stream. If you're watching this on YouTube in the future, by the power of Hungarian video editing, we will make this safe for you. If you are watching this with me live, buckle up. And yes, this is the first frame.
Oh, shit. Here we go again.
You know, life out here in the organic whole food section aisle is, it's a pretty rough affair. I mean, sure, the Coke on the tables that makes you run faster is free, and we're only the second worst inner city interior. But these levels of
Dude, second, yo, he's insulting Asura, you live in dirt. Okay, also, in his last video, he was playing a Sylvari engineer, so I guess he's picking back up from there.
On plant violence are just completely unsustainable. We out here every day, grinding, struggling, and what do we have to show for it? A little bit of dirt and a whole lot of nothing. None of this, however, is my concern. I have bigger problems to deal with. See, it's about time I escape this life of oppression out into the wider world, and you won't even have to listen to my mixtape for me to be able to do that. Now, last time I had to make some semblance of sense in order to review the mechanics of this ancient and esoteric MMO, but now, unburdened.
Fun fact, last time, when I reacted to him, I said, Rose, I know you're gonna watch me react to you later. When you tape those leaves to you, were those irritating? Did those bother you? And when he reacted to my react to his video later on, he was like, oh my god, I spray painted the leaves to get them the right color. And the paint was extremely irritating on my skin. He said he recorded the video as fast as possible, and when he tore those things off, he had like a rash.
Semblance of sense in order to review the mechanics of this ancient and esoteric MMO, but now, unburdened by the need to explain how and why things work, I don't have to make any sense at all, and can instead focus on making you as nauseous and confused with my Guild Wars 2
Incite fear in local streamers. This is it. This is my guest appearance in his video. Fight or flight, hidden effects. Wow.
Takes as possible. Previously, I met the results of what happens when a game dev doesn't receive enough love as a child. Got flashbanged by the amount
Jumping puzzles? Apparently jumping puzzles are what happens if a game dev does not have enough love as a child.
of info in the hero training tab, and discovered, rather ironically, that the most plant-like race in Guild Wars 2 doesn't have a family tree so much as a family twig, since we all came from the same place and were all genetic dead ends incapable of reproduction. That is
technically true. All Sylvari have the same mob, and one dad that owes a lot of child support.
Of course, aside from our one mom who we're all related to. But most importantly, I'm finally beginning to hear whispers of our greatest and most feared enemy. And it's about time I prepared myself to face him by completely forgetting he exists and finding a new zone to level up in. In Geography Wars 2, these level brackets for zones are more of a suggestion than a rule, because as long as you're not under-leveled, you can go wherever you want and the game's just gonna scale you down appropriately so that you can experience the content. Well,
it's true. Alright, so for anyone who has never played the game, just to pause it there for a quick second, if you are playing Guild Wars 2, you can level anywhere that you're above the minimum level. Like, I could be level 40, and I could go here, and it would squish me down to level 25, and I could get, like, XP and rewards for my proper level from this zone, you know? This one's level 1 to 15. As long as I'm above level 1, I could go here, you know? Then over here, this was level 80. This is a zone that was added later on, so this is a max level zone. But yeah, during the leveling, something I frequently did long ago is like I would do 2 of the like level 1 zones. Like I would do like this is the level 1 zone for the Sylvari, and then I might go do the level 1 zone for the humans. And then I was just like slightly over leveled for all of the zones going forward from that on. But yeah, you could do that. You could do that. It also allows you to more easily group with friends. Like if you've got one friend that's level 20 and you're level 80 or you're level 60 or something, you could both go to the same low level zone that you guys hadn't done and just do it together, and that's fine. And you both get rewards.
This probably suck later when I'm level 80 and I go back to a beginner zone and can't kill a level 2 squirrel without a single shot from a gun. Yeah, probably, but I'm not one to look a gift raptor that I haven't been using in the mouth. And so I press on, deciding that I'm just about old enough.
So he said he was trying to do the Guild Wars 2 leveling experience the way it was intended. And I think one of his self-imposed rules was not using mounts.
Now to catch crabs, collect what looks like slightly expired blobs for a robot and his master, and continue
Noxxi is that out.
You finding out just how forgettable the backstory of these sentient vegetables is. That's right. We're allowed to make these jokes now after finding out what he did. At this point,
I don't know what he did, but I do know the picture in the bottom left wasn't safe. Noxxi, blur that one too.
Our intrepid hero is supposed to go after an ancient artifact from the land of death called Ore, but the
Wait. He used a Dark Souls loading prompt and just put Germany.
Ore, but the houseplants who know about the artifact are currently missing. So I'm forced to track one of them down, kill some undead, and meet up with Karis, the single most cringe-inducing Sylvari of the entire game. This right here is the kind of character that separates the amateurs from the pros. And Julie Nathanson, the voice actor of Cabbage, is definitely a pro. You can tell because she had to read some of these lines out loud and have them haunt her nightmares, as well as have her voice immortal of these lines out loud and have them haunt her
Spend so much time chasing others in their dreams, I forgot to chase my own
nightmares, as well as have her voice immortalized.
I was thinking I should wait, but then I stopped thinking that because they were those eels will pay for harming Tegwin.
In this horror show of a dialogue. And even after doing so, there's not a single mention in her wiki about her putting a gun in her mouth and redecorating the nearest ceiling. We thank you for your service, Julie, and hope that you're in a better place now. Cringe Princess tells us healing. We thank you for your service, Julie, and hope that you're in a
sincerely hope they paid you before going
better place now.
Sincerely hope they never Wow! Nox, blur it!
Cringe Princess tells us here that forgettable mentor number 25, Tegwin, managed to somehow be outsmarted by a bunch of fish who are now holding her captive underwater, but
that's
not
fine.
in the sexy way. So it's up to us to save her.
Is there a hot way to have a fish hold you captive with a gun underwater? I can't think of one.
From a life of being well hydrated. And it's at this point that I realize that I've forgotten to mention something to you. Guild Wars 2 has done something here that I've seen no other MMO even try to attempt.
I'm hoping he's about to say underwater combat is kind of fun.
Unique swimming combat system. You get your own rebreather unless you plan on drowning. Your own uniquely underwater weapon to...
What did that say? King tried it when he saw the submarine in his... Okay, alright. It took me a second to process that picture. Alright.
To fight enemies with unless you plan on dying. And unfortunately, as unique as this system is, the Guild Wars 2 underwater combat is just kinda... shallow. Especially when compared to the other mechanics of this game, since there's about as much weapon variety here as an...
You're playing an engineer. You've all... Okay, yeah. He's playing, I think, the only class, or one of the only classes that only has one underwater weapon, but he has kits. He could swap to a grenade kit and hurl grenades underwater if he wants to. Like, he has other options. But yeah, if he's not using kits, then the harpoon gun on engineer is the only underwater weapon.
American election. But an attempt was made, and that's more than I can say for most MMOs. I mean, hell, some modern MMO titles don't even let the 5 people who still play their game swim, let alone fight underwater. So I kill a few fish people who don't...
I remember when I was playing, this isn't quite the same, but I was playing Valheim the first time, and I was using a throwing spear, and I tried to throw it at a bird, and I missed, and it landed in shallow water, and I went into the shallow water to get the spear back, and I died, like, immediately. Now, this is right when Valheim came out, but if you entered water, you just died. And I was just like, what? So I lost my weapon.
Like it when I refer to them as Naga, because that's their word now. I free the...
Do I even want to back this up and read what that said?
mind, the game break we're looking for as Naga underwater. So I kill a few fish people who don't like it when I refer to them as Naga, because that's their word.
Twitch suspended multiple World of Warcraft streamers for saying Naga. Naga is a monster race in the game, and Twitch banned those streamers for hateful conduct because they think they're saying the N-word. What a joke of a company. I didn't know that ever happened.
Now,
okay,
I free the ficus we were looking for alongside a strange little frogman, and then, unfortunately, the game breaks on me. And I know this has to be a bug because no one—
Hold up, before I forget to talk about it, we'll just pause with his glorious form in the frame. I really love the underwater combat system in Guild Wars 2, so I want to talk about it for a second. Like, in the previous MMOs I played, EverQuest, World of Warcraft, if you're underwater, if you're a mage that shoots fireballs on land, you're still a mage that shoots fireballs in the water. If you're in a Guild Wars 2 and you're a mage that shoots fireballs on land, underwater you shoot like jets of boiling water, you know? Like a fire elementalist that's using fire underwater, it's just superheated jets of water. Like, it makes sense, you know? Ranger pets are different underwater. Instead of, you know, I don't know, like a bear or a boar, underwater you might have a giant jellyfish or a shark, you know, things like that. The engineers' turrets have like buoys on them so that they, you know, have neutral buoyancy and they'll stay wherever you put them. And there are some skills that just don't work underwater, you know, like flying jump kicks on wheelbender, things like that. But they did a lot of work when the game came out to make the underwater stuff really interesting. I freaking love it. It among MMOs, it's my favorite underwater system. However, it does need balance. They've not really made any content focused on underwater in a very long time. And so, like, if you do some of the older underwater content and you've got, like, you know, other people in your party, some of them are going to do way more damage than the others because it's they need to tweak the numbers. Yeah, all right, that's it.
In their right mind would look at that face and think it wasn't supposed to be in a cage. NCSoft really needs to fix their game. It's only rational that I should be able to put that thing out of its misery the moment I see it. Eventually, though, this leads me on to meeting up with some better looking rat people who have the artifact
What? The script? The script are better looking rat people. Oh my god, ban this man.
It's here again that Guild Wars 2 storytelling is marred by the lack of intrigue or anything unique happening. I honestly felt more focused when the game was devastating my attention span every 5 seconds with a jumping puzzle or a hidden chest. See, unlike the visuals, the combat, the interesting spell effects, and even the differing themes that I've seen in different parts of the world so far, there's just nothing unique or interesting that's happening about the storytelling here. There's no hook or deeper character motivations to discover. It's simply a case of chasing around a MacGuffin until eventually we find it. And here's the real kick in the— when we do find this artifact, we're not even the ones who get to use it, and there's no significant story progress made at all. Instead, we're back—
I'm gonna pause here for a sec. I actually don't remember where he's at right now. So he's doing a step of his personal story. I can tell that. For those that don't know, the personal stories in the game, like, you know, you've got like the Sylvari, the Asura, the Humans, the Norns, the Char. Each of them, you make choices when you make your character, right? And when you make those choices, you start out with different early quests. Now, all of those quests, like all of the Sylvari different choices, will have different quests at level 1, and then different quests at like level 10, but then they like might be merged together by level 20-ish, and then they're all on the same quest at that point, right? And then by level 30, the Sylvari, Human, Norn, Char, all of them will merge together at level 30. And at level 30, you choose one of 3 factions to join. And then you do those faction quests, but then by level 40 or 50, all of those paths merge together, and you're fighting Zoltan, you know, by level 80. So all of the stories converge by that point. What he's doing right now is one of the early branches of the Sylvari story, and I don't remember which one this is, so I don't recognize what MacGuffin he's chasing right now.
Back to doing a daily repeatable quest of rescuing the same single-digit IQ plantoid who didn't learn her lesson the first time around, except this time it's supposed to be different because the environment is grey and not yellow-brown. Let's just snap back to reality real quick here. I've been thinking about why I care so—
dedicated green screen corner, very nice. I painted one wall, and I was like, I'm not doing it anymore. So I respect it.
So little about all of these story beats for weeks now, trying to figure out exactly what is wrong with the Guild Wars 2 Leaf Boy story and why I couldn't give less of a about it if I tried. I could honestly bitch endlessly about the lack of deeper character connection you feel between yourself
Noxxi's gonna have more work on this video than like the last month.
and these NPCs, the rushed pacing of some of these stories, the fact that you've got all this interesting lore, but the in-game explanation is flatter than that geographically shaped gamer dome of yours. But if I really
I don't know who that guy was. I have no input on that individual.
you think about it, it boils down to this. In a game like World of Warcraft, vanilla, not the modern Rebomination, you care down to this. In a game like World of Warcraft, vanilla,
Okay, so those are the old like set bonuses and stuff. All right.
not the modern Rebomination.
10 out of 10 spider dungeons now have public light. Oh, that's right. For people. Okay, so yeah. Arachnophobia. There's arachnophobia mode now that turns those spiders into crabs.
You care because you get to learn about the wider world and your place in it while questing. There's a reason, one that you get to discover firsthand, why Stitches is roaming Duskwood. There's a deeper lore explanation behind why Mancrick's wife faked her death so she could run off with her Tauren lover. And that's exactly why no player in the Barrens has ever found her body. But if you look at Guild Wars 2, your character isn't so much a piece of the world as a placeholder for all the events that are happening around them. Most of the time it feels like you're listening to some pre-recorded message that's been strapped to a mannequin. And once you're somewhere else, then off screen they go and do something stupid that you have to come in and solve. Look, I get it. Guild Wars 2 is touted as the everything game. And there is everything in this game. I've seen so much cool shit, but got to experience none of it firsthand yet. And you learn next to nothing about that from the in-game world itself while you're leveling up. Maybe it's because the leveling experience is just old and outdated at this point, but then I would argue that instead of an extra expansion, they should probably be working on a better revamp of this section of the story. Because I promise you, I would slam dunk an Asura baby face first into a trash can without a moment's hesitation if it meant that I got to experience the roller beetle racing while I was leveling up. This game has a ton of variety. I can see that.
Yeah, roller beetles were added in Living World Season 4. So there was like the base game, Season 1, Heart of Thorns, Season 2 and 3, and then like the Path of Fire. So it was after Path of Fire, roller beetles were added in. So I mean, they could probably set up like rentals or something like that, but you wouldn't be able to obtain it unless they added a new way of obtaining it.
From a mile away, I just can't experience any of it because I'm not level 80 yet. And that's a real shame, especially for new players when you think about it. So far, the leveling consists of completing allocated story rations and then just getting right back to explosively shitting out levels until you
Nox, blur it.
hit the next decade bracket for more mediocre story quests that have you do the same thing with some forgettable dialogue sprinkled in. And the only reason Guild Wars 2 can get away with this is probably because of how fluid the combat feels and how good the low poly world still looks even to this day. It's no
So, okay, a couple of things there. One, it is true that, like, let's say you are doing your main quest line every time you can, right? So, like, level 1, you're doing your main quest line. Maybe you finish it by level 3, and then it says get to level 10 to do more of the main quest. I do think that's dumb. I agree with that, all right? So you get to level 10, and then you can do the main quest. Maybe by level 13, you have finished what you can do, and then it says get to level 20 to continue it. And it goes on like that. At every 10 levels, then you can focus on the MSQ for a little bit. The MSQ does not occupy 100% of your 1 through 80 time. It'll occupy some of it, and you could just like blast from like 1 to 30 and then do all the MSQ from 1 to 30 in one sitting if you wish to. Like, you could do that. But yeah, there's a chunk of it at 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, so on, so on, and so on. I wish that was different. I do think the pacing of that could be better. It could be better. I don't dislike the Guild Wars 2 story. Now, obviously, I'm a Guild Wars 2 content creator. I don't love the early story. I don't hate it either. I'm definitely more neutral about it. I will be vague because I don't intend to spoil people with this. In my opinion, their best writing, like times that, like, you know, the hair on the back of my neck stood up because, like, I was just like, whoa, I got like chills from a few moments, was Living World Season 4. You know, there was some great moments, in my opinion, in Path of Fire, in End of Dragons, and a few of the others as well. But Living Worlds Season 4 was just like incredible for me. And that's when I think it was like, you know, peak. And I'm purely talking storytelling with that statement. I'm purely talking about storytelling. Vanilla was, you know, the whole thing was Zaitan, right? Zaitan is an undead dragon. Basically, if he flies past, zombie apocalypse follows his shadow. Really cool idea of an enemy, really cool villain, and they're trying to figure out how to take this thing down, and at the same time constantly having to fight, you know, undead hordes. But yeah, the whole experience leading up to Zaitan definitely could be better. I agree with that.
Exaggeration when I say that nothing interesting or significant really happens story-wise or mechanics-wise between the levels 20 and 30 story brackets. All you do is play tower defense that you don't even need to be present for, track down some...
So again, 20 to 30, there's going to be a different 20 to 30 experience based on what you chose at character creation. So obviously I know he's a Sylvari, but I don't remember what other choices he made. But I will say that it's unfortunate that he didn't like, you know, what his experience was. There are, you know, what is it? There's 5 races. There's like 3 choices at each thing. So there's probably like 15 options there. So there's probably, I don't know, some between like 10 and 14 other 20 to 30 experiences. Just pointing that out there. Not invalidating how he felt about it. I'm just pointing that out.
Legendary sword that you will get to use for exactly one mission, all in order to kill a lich who named himself after the first car that cut him off on the freeway one day on his way home. You do
Mazda K?
You do, however, get to learn how much better looking the human capital city is in comparison to our own original fertilized hood. I mean, look at this place. Actual civilization.
To be fair, lore-wise, I think Divinity's Reach has been there for like hundreds of years, and the Sylvari are like 2. So the Sylvari haven't had a lot of time to advance themselves in architecture. Once again, for anyone who missed the last video, when the Sylvari pop out of the pods, they're like adult size. They don't have a baby state. They pop out adult size. So they're baby adults. They're 25. Okay, something like that. Anyway, much younger civilization. I'm just saying that.
They even know to keep all the poor people over in there.
Why is he still holding the gun? He was using the gun as a prop in the last video because he was playing an engineer, and engineers use firearms, but he's still waving it around.
Own segment of the city so that no one else can smell them or care about their problems.
Wow.
Just like in real life.
I'm gonna assume that's a stab at California.
Look, something is obviously missing from my experience here. There has to be something that I am missing that kept people interested enough that they got to level 80 and out of this mid-range no man's land. And I think I know what it is. It has to be the dungeon experience. People obviously get through this lull in the story.
It's funny, like, a lot of people think I know everything about this game. I'm the first person to tell you that I don't. It has been over a year or 2 since I've done any dungeons. Like, if you were like, Muck, draw me a map of whatever zone, I could probably do a decent job of almost any zone in the game drawing you a map. Except dungeons. Dungeons are so... Okay, for anyone who doesn't play the game, I'm going to give you a super Cliff's Notes version of it. Dungeons, yeah, every MMO has dungeons. We all know what dungeons are. There's story mode, which has like NPCs talking. There's actual lore, like, you know, come with me. We're trying to get this artifact. We're trying to save Billy, whatever. You know, Timmy fell down the well. You're there for a reason, and you follow them, and there's story. And then there's another mode in the dungeon where you just go through it, and you know, there's not talking, and you just blast through it as fast as you want, and you just go through it, and that's more for like a group experience. Later on, Guild Wars 2 made a thing called Fractals, and I actually just happen to be right next to a fractal room right now, so I'm just going to zip over here. There are 100 difficulties of fractals, and each day they have different modifiers. For example, that one has Afflicted, Fractal Vindicators, and Hamstrung today. This was the thing that inspired World of Warcraft to make their Mythic Pluses. Now, Mythic Pluses eventually took a different direction. It is not the same. It is not a copy-paste. However, this was the predecessor to Mythic Pluses. So Fractals got a lot of love, and then they just kind of stopped updating dungeons. For better or for worse, Fractals kind of became the thing that replaced them. So dungeons are still there, but they take longer than Fractals, and they pay less than Fractals, so not many people do Fractals, or sorry, not many people do dungeons instead of Fractals unless they need something. So that's it. Like, I myself, veteran of the game, thousands of hours, I haven't gone back to a dungeon. I haven't had a reason to in a very, very, very long time. Okay.
Because the dungeons must just be that good when leveling up. Now, I might have a bit of error message PTSD from my very first character trying out a dungeon, but it's just about time I conquered my past failures and do the one thing that no MMO player ever wants to do, and be social. Stick with me here. Maybe this whole time I've been playing Genital Warts 2 wrong. Maybe I've been eating the box the Pop-Tarts came in and not the Pop-Tarts themselves.
I feel like he was out of ideas for this part, and he just looked around his kitchen, and he's like, that'll do it.
Maybe just like how The Witcher 3 is just an extra fold of skin that hides the cheesy center that is the card.
Noxxi, just zoom in on my horrified face for this part, thank you.
Game Gwent beneath it. The Guild Wars 2 world is nothing more than an excuse for amazing instanced
Oh, hey, it's me, what's up?
Content. So step 1 is form a group, then an excuse for amazing instant.
Okay. Yeah, that's pre-beard. Alright, so he probably got this from, I don't know, maybe the Twin Largos guide? I don't know when I last did Twin Largos.
Content. So step 1 is form a group. Easy enough when you're not socially retarded, so I rope someone else into doing that for me.
Wait, Bella. Bella, you in chat? I've seen Bella in my chat before.
And then, once that's done, step 2 is... And will you look at that? It's already over. Guild Wars 2 dungeons would probably be a fun experience if not done with a group of coked out speed freaks.
Yep. So dungeons have been in the game since it launched. So one, again, if you do the whole thing, it's a very long process. Two, they don't really pay that well if you do them the long way. So they've been out 10 years. So people, you know how speedrunners are. They could come out with some pretty crazy stuff. They've figured out which mobs are not essential, which ones are not necessary to kill. They figure out if you stand in a certain corner and hop on one leg and sing happy birthday on a full moon at midnight, you can no-clip to the world and land at the final boss. Crap like that. So they will do these things way faster than you would think is possible, which if you're getting the new player experience, probably not great.
Who play this game like their mom just told them to get off the PC 10 minutes ago. But that's who you are going to be running these dungeons with in 2024. Because the simple fact is that Grandpa's World 2 is probably older than most people on the internet these days. And that means 99% of the people you're running dungeons with are long-time veteran players. And they treat dungeons the way a sweet baby ink employee treats public relations. They destroy that shit in record time. And I'm pretty...
Okay, I was getting worried, but that was a fine joke.
Sure, I was still watching the dungeon intro cutscene by the time these guys had downed the first boss. And the worst part was, the story that was attached to this little piece of content in the dungeon was actually more interesting than the MSQ itself. What I managed to pick up in the brief
Yeah, so there's, I don't know, 8 or so dungeons, and each dungeon does have a major story attached to it. I think he was in Ascalonian Catacombs. That one is about Ascalon. Ascalon was a city that the Char essentially dropped a nuke on, and magical nuke. And so there's a bunch of ghosts there. And the ghosts hate the Char. I mean, with kind of good reason. But the dungeon party is led by Ritlock, who is a Char, and the ghosts there are all very anti-him. So they fight back with everything they have because they remember the Char destroying them.
moments of cutscene that I did get away with not skipping was that it all revolved around convincing a Ghost King that no matter how hard he tries, wishes don't always come true because he's still dead, and as such, his body and earthly possessions are now nothing more than a chew toy to the descendants of the feral cats who helped kill him a while back. And I couldn't even take the time to enjoy it because if I did, I would have missed out on all of the combat happening around me. Now, I'm pretty sure that in the past, these dungeons were a pretty solid piece of content, but right here, right now, they're just not. So that,
Agreed. I 100% agree. I 100% agree. I think it's unfortunate he went in with a group that didn't wait on him. Maybe they didn't communicate. Maybe he just said like LFG dungeon, and then they all just assumed that everyone knew what they were doing. But yeah, I very much like. I know FF14 players, which I've only spent a very short time in FF14, but I see this on Twitter a lot. They're like, they're very adamant about not ruining the new player experience. They're like, they call them sprouts. So like, if you see a sprout in your group, you do not skip the cinematics. You do not. You let them watch that. And honestly, I feel like it should be the same here. So either they didn't know he was watching them, or they did and didn't care. I hope it's the first one. But yeah, it would definitely be better for if he got to experience the dungeons, because each one does have its own story with a group that is all like on the same page for that, for sure.
fortunately, rules out sprinting through dungeons as any kind of significant leveling experience in 2024, which means that we're back to doing
Shugo says that's not true about FF14. They kick you from the group if you're slow. All right, I was going by what I've seen on Twitter. It is also true that Twitter does not speak for the main player base as much as they wish that they did.
hard quests, and like I said in episode 1, they aren't bad, but they're not good either. And that only leaves me with one objectively high tier 10 out of 10 thing to do between getting a new batch of mediocre story quests, and that's the dynamic events. So that's exactly what I default to doing whenever possible. Eventually, I lose myself in the experience, as I always do, and forget that I've already gone a little past the bare minimum requirement of level 40. You know what? I needed this break from the MSQ just to take in the world and just enjoy how gorgeous everything is, even if it is this old. I mean, it's just so beautiful.
Perfectly
But I'm
normal
told by
non-bot
my
behavior.
chat that this is the point where things at least start to get better story-wise. We've apparently now made it over the wall that turns most new players away from the game, and I'm already more than halfway to level 80.
What is that music? Is that from... I think that might be from the Nightmare Fractal?
Now, being level 43 and less medicated than usual, I'm beginning to feel the power of my vegan heritage taking root within me. The voices in my head and the magic letter in my mail system keep telling me to throw an arch in that and head to a place with a lion, so that
Lion's Arch. Okay. Yeah, I guarantee you, he Googled trying to find an arching lion and just couldn't find one, and then just went with Daphne because he couldn't find it.
that's exactly what I do.
Link to the video? Yeah, I'll put it.
Ah yes, Lion's Arch, the diverse melting pot city of Terraria,
Is he wearing the lower half of a Wookiee costume? What is that?
where all the many races of the world get together to buy stuff off of the trading post before f***ing off right back home to their own home city. Let's
That's not true. Our home cities have trading posts.
get back to the story that has apparently started to get interesting. We meet up with our Alabaman plant sister and a bunch of other characters I don't care about. Apparently they were
What? Yo, Ritlog and Logan are way better than Alabama and Plant Sister.
all a big deal once upon a time, but then one of them started dating Yoko Ono or something. I'm sure it's not important. Now don't
No, what dating? No. No. So that was what is it? Divinity's Edge. So there is or Destiny's Edge, not Divinity's Edge. I combined it with Divinity's Reach. Destiny's Edge. Destiny's Edge was essentially like the group of heroes, you know? Like if you were in a D&D campaign, like they would be the party. Destiny's Edge was that group that you saw there, them. And there was also another one. He's dead now. And there was a book called Destiny's Edge, and it takes place literally right before Guild Wars 2 starts. And in that book, a lot of things happen. But to super summarize, if you've played Guild Wars 2 and you haven't read the book, you've probably picked up a lot of this by context already. I'm not going to be dropping like major spoilers that you don't already know. In that, you know, they were fighting to try to stop one of the dragons waking up. Like Zaitan is the undead apocalypse dragon, and he's currently awake. This group were trying to hunt down the dragon's lieutenants, and they managed to take a few of them down. And they were trying to stop Kraukatorek from waking up. And they actually got help from Glint, another dragon that was like, yo, it would be really bad for the world if this guy wakes up. I'm going to help you. So she's way weaker than Kraukatorek. She is trying to fight him and force him to the ground so that they can stab him, essentially. They've got like a big fancy magic spear that they put a lot of time and effort into, and they're trying to take him down. She is essentially sacrificing herself to force this dragon to the ground. And at the same time, Snaf, who's another member of the party, has this fancy Asuran helmet he made, and 100% of his concentration is he's attacking Kraukatorik's mind. So Kraukatorik's body is getting attacked by Glint, his mind's getting attacked by Snaf. They're trying to bring him down to the ground. At the same time, all the other members of the party are fighting off his hordes of like corrupted beings. There's branded ogres and branded people and branded char all swarming them, and they're trying to keep Snaf safe because Snaf cannot move. He's just like the whole time, and they're fighting. And then Logan, guy on the left, gets basically a telepathic message from Divinity's Reach that the queen's about to be murdered. And he really wants to help save the world, but he's the queen's #1 protector. And he ports out. He waypoints out. And Ritlock's like, no! And, you know, they felt abandoned by him. And he went, and he did, in fact, not only, to super summarize, save the queen, but all of Ebonhawk's stronghold. But some people that were close to him died in the process. He wasn't able to save everyone. But he actually made huge plays by doing that. However, because he was gone, the others, when they lost and Snaf was killed because they got overwhelmed, Ritlock specifically blamed Logan. Now, whether or not it is not certain that they would have won if Logan had stayed. But Ritlock blamed Logan for them losing that day. So all the evil Kraukatorek did after that, Ritlock basically was like, this is your fault. And just to show in game really quickly here, this purple line right here that goes down, my son calls this the Brand Canyon. This is where Kraukatorek flew after he woke up and got away from them and took off. And everything he passed over branded, and all the people became monsters along that whole path. So that happened. So up until that point, they had grown very close together, but that's who they are. Sorry, I know some of you were like, why are we going over this? Anyway, that's who they are. There was no like, what is it, dating?
Then one of them started dating Yoko Ono or something.
I don't know what the hell that is.
Not important. Now, don't interrupt me. I should be focusing on the story, since apparently it's super interesting right about now.
Oh, and then because I mentioned Snaf died, that's why Zoja is so bitter. That's why she's such a sassy little monster and she yells at everybody. So she blames other members of the group for Snaf dying, and Ritlock blames Logan for them losing, blah, blah, blah.
Welcome, fellow members of Destiny's Edge. We must speak of the...
I think I've been lied to. This is no better than any of the story at levels 20 or 30. Maybe my Twitch chat was just trolling me. I just don't see why any of this is any better than... God damn!
Yeah, in the first Guild Wars 2 video, he saw a picture of Aristogalkin, and he did a booba emote, so I'm not really surprised.
Right. Never mind. I see exactly why people enjoy the leveling experience of Guild Wars 2. Finally, I understand the Guild Wars 2 story. It all makes sense now. I get why this is a 10 out of 10 experience. There's nothing quite like the presence of an 8'6", 380-pound mega mommy who
Oh my. He had the guy from Jurassic Park.
doesn't quite understand how pants work to make gamers pay attention. Now, sadly, this is just a tease
That's probably not the best. Yeah, I'm not even going to mention where that scene's from.
for the future, and the game gets us back on track rather quickly and away from Milk Truck Supreme. I meet up with a house cat who tells us about the order they formed to keep the world safe from the different flavors of flying gecko, and that's exactly why they immediately send me out on a quest to play high-stakes veterinarian and put down a bunch of local strays instead of fighting dragons. But by chance, I am also introduced to a very special character. Now, this is an important moment, because this is the second time that I get to meet a character in this game that is actually somewhat memorable. See, right here,
His name's Forgle.
handedly carries the mid-level story brackets on his back from here on out. Maybe it's the voice acting or the fact that he doesn't immediately evaporate after one quest, but for some reason this character stands out amongst a blur of unmemorable garbage I've had to put up with until this point. The only thing ruining this experience is that every now and then we're still sent out on another Scooby-Doo Mystery Machine mission to solve more small world problems that I don't exactly care about. Again, aside from Old Man For Honor, the rest of the
Imagine with a sneaky path. Yeah. So I mentioned at level like 30, all the racial stuff comes together story-wise, and then you get a choice to join one of 3 factions. And those factions can basically be, do you want to help us fight the dragons by joining the army on the front line, by joining the sneaky people and, you know, trying to like pick off and assassinate targets, or by joining the priory, which is like studying lore and books and finding magic artifacts and looking for anything that will help us in like old records and things like that. It's kind of like strength, dex, or int. And Forgle is a member of the army. So you basically you're joining the front lines.
story is a blur, but basically I've been sent out to save the diplomatic relations between the humans and the house cats before a rogue faction of disaffected terrorist felines who just so happen to dwell in caves and live
Oh man, dude, that was a reference to that guy that died when he was spelunking or whatever.
in a desert, get away with magical night.
I'm not gonna say it.
9/11. Now, there's not much wrong with this part of the story as there was with previous parts. The whole idea is getting 2 great nations to cooperate with one another against Tyria's current greatest threat. So at least things are somewhat beginning to be tied into the idea of fighting with the big zombie sky iguana threatening to kill us all. But I've got just one question for the lore-designing crackpipe king over at NCSoft who designed this Willy Wonka in a warehouse storyline. Why in the fresh Kentucky Fried would 2 great and powerful nations decide that they're going to hold their peace talks in the middle of a forest where no one can call for backup and no one can hear you scream? You would think that for peace talks that are this important, it would be some UN level where everyone is meeting in some grand council chamber on neutral ground. But no, instead we're out here
I don't remember what step he's on right now. I can't even say anything.
in random forest number 87, just asking to be absolutely You know what? I'm just being hypercritical here. And I probably just need to stop drilling so hard down on the story and take a little break. Clear my head. Gain some perspective. I mean, on the bright side, after all that effort, I am finally at a stage in the game where I can do at least some things outside of quests and thinking about defenestrating myself whenever I'm handed a task that doesn't have to do with slaying dragons. So I might as well while I still can. And as a second note, I just realized that I'm out here ruining my own experience of this MMO, and it's not the MMO's fault. I've become so enamored with the lackluster story in this game that I completely forgot that you are supposed to play an MMO to have fun. And because you don't have friends in real life. So
Yeah, on my channel, we frequently call fun the F word. Because some people be like, yeah, like, oh, why are you doing this activity? Like, oh, why are you doing that? And I'm like, oh, you know, the forbidden F word. I'm having and yeah, Reddit hates it. Don't tell them about it.
So it's time I slowed down a little, took a deep breath, and took in the sheer majesty of an unattended 12-year-old MMO. Maybe I'll talk to a few NPCs, look a little more into the world building, figure out what visual narratives Guild Wars 2 is trying to convey to me outside of the spoken or written word. It's easy to forget sometimes at these levels that we're no longer just boys in the hood. We're men now. So enough I'm gonna go do just that. And it was at that moment that I found it. I found the secret to leveling up in Guild Wars 2. Finally, I knew how all these players had
There's not enough time left. This is going to be continued.
Done it and survived the journey with their minds still intact. It was right there in front of me all along, and I just couldn't see it until now.
I knew it. I knew it.
As always, big thanks to all my subscribers, both old and new.
Is he going?
And especially
Wow.
And a special thank to the Money for Honey squad over on Patreon, who make sure the rest of you freeloading bastards get to keep watching these videos for
Is that what I should start calling my non-subscribers?
free. Quick side note, the highlights of the Twitch speedrun ban are now live over on my second channel. And to all my patrons.
Oh yeah, he did a thing where he made a stream on Twitch, and he tried to break every rule possible to get banned as quickly as he could. It's pretty entertaining. I'll include a link to his channel down below if that sounds like something you'd want to watch. It's pretty funny, and it's not safe for work.
Over on Patreon, who waited this long for me to release another video. I just want you to know, I don't care what anyone else says. You white boys are the realest of Anyway, more content soon.
that was close. All right.
Bye.
Okay. That was Saltmaxxing the Guild Wars 2 story experience. 1 through 80, part 2. There you go. That is the third Guild Wars 2 video he's made. And I got to star in it twice, apparently. Oh my god. Yeah. That was good. That was good. That was very entertaining. I don't know, I was trying to think if I had any other input beyond what I already said. I'm wondering what the glowing thing at the end, where he's like, I finally found it, what they all love. Because this whole experience, I've been here for his sense of humor. I do not at all agree with the fact that the leveling experience sucks. I enjoyed the leveling experience of the game. I don't want to do it over and over and over, but I had no problem with it, you know? He very much dislikes it. Like, I think it had ups and downs. I mentioned that there were some parts of the story I liked more than others. But, like, overall, I think the previous video he did was called Why Everyone Hates the Guild Wars 2 Story. And I was like, I wasn't aware anyone did. You know, I wasn't aware anyone did hate it. But, yeah, I'm very curious to see what it is that he found that makes it all better. Someone in chat says crafting. You think? The crafting system in this game is pretty solid. I didn't bother with crafting until I was already level 80. I don't know if I did that while leveling. XP tomes of knowledge. I kind of want Noxxi's face to keep appearing whenever you comment on what needs a blur, getting more and more frustrated at your demands. Oh yeah, she has this one emote of her that looks like exasperated. Someone do it if you're a Noxxi sub. And she uses that in the videos a lot lately. There was one where I walked into landmines like 14 times recently. That isn't public yet. I was playing Fallout New Vegas, and then she kept using that emote. Yes, that one that Arcadian just put in the chat. He looks like a combination of every Proto-Slavic uncle family doesn't like talking about on Earth. That sentence was a roller coaster. Thank you.